Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, and you're listening to Incredible Life Creator Podcast. My guest today is Karoline Stevens. With more than 2 decades of experience in the personal development field, Karoline Stevens is an authentic and passionate life coach and presenter who challenges her audiences to empower their lives. Originally from Germany, Carolina lived in New Zealand for 20 years. After losing everything during a divorce, she realized her role in creating this experience and decided to turn her life around. In a short time, she tripled her income as she built a successful healing and coaching practice and eventually manifested her dream relationship. Carolina teaches audiences and clients the same principles that helped her create a life of extraordinary happiness, love, and abundance. As a certified life mastery consultant now based in Sedona, Arizona, USA, Carolina inspires you to up level your mindset to manifest your dreams regardless of outer circumstances. Welcome to the podcast, Carolina.
Thank you so much for having me, Kimberly. So great to be here.
Yes, and all the way from Arizona. I bet you it's nice and warm there where it's still cold some places.
Oh, it's just spring is here, the blossoms are out, it's gorgeous.
Wonderful. Just so people can get to know you, why don't you tell us your story? Because I know you had a story that has a lot of ups and downs, turns. So just
Yeah.
share with us.
Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity. So, I guess my biggest wake up call, which then turned out to be my greatest blessing, was in 2007 when I basically my marriage fell apart. We lost our family home. I had no money. And yeah, I felt like I was in a black hole and I had no idea how I could possibly get out. I had no idea how I could get in, how I even got in the first place. And so, yeah, it was freaky. It was really scary. I mean, for anybody who's maybe been in this place. And so, this is when a friend came to me and he kind of put his hand over my shoulder and he said, Carolina, what you have created is because of your patterns of thinking and your way of being. And if you change those, you can create something totally different. And so this really, it kind of like slapped me around the
I was
head.
going to say, no one likes to hear that.
No, initially I didn't, because I realized I actually got a lot of mileage out of being the victim and blaming, my ex-husband and the circumstances and the economy. And all of a sudden, but it resonated with a part inside of me and it gave me hope. I went like, okay, if this is how life works, I'm going to do this. I'm going to prove this to myself. And so I just rolled up my sleeves and I knew I couldn't do it by myself. And so this is when I got myself help. So I literally spent every spare cent I had on coaches, because I had a very small part-time business at the time,
Mhm.
because I was a stay-at-home mom. And so yeah, I had to really build up my business to support myself really quickly. And I knew I couldn't do that on my own. And so this is when, yeah, I work with coaches and healing practitioners, and they helped me to turn my subconscious inside out. And, it was shocking because I had no idea of all this unresolved emotional issues I was still carrying, anger and grudges, but also disempowering beliefs about myself as a woman. Women are second-rate citizens. I'm not good enough. I'm stupid. Men can't be trusted. Life is hard and a struggle and on and on. And I could see how all those beliefs had actually manifested, in the circumstances that I've found myself in. And so, as I had really a lot of support to start to shift my thinking, to heal my unresolved emotional issues, forgiving a whole bunch of people, including myself, and yeah, facing my fears and insecurities. And as I was going through this process, it was really amazing because suddenly I started to feel more comfortable in my own skin. I felt more confident, more empowered, and exactly what my friend had predicted. Life started to mirror my new, more empowered consciousness back to me. And yeah, more amazing opportunities came to me to build my business. I then, as you mentioned, ended up tripling my income, built a really successful healing. And at that stage, I was still doing a massage as well, practice. And that was actually during a time when the economy went downhill. So, it was really amazing. And then 4 years later, I ended up meeting the love of my life in Phoenix, in Arizona. And so now live my dream life. And it all started really with, um, with hitting rock bottom and being forced to face myself. You know, I learned that in life we don't get what we want, we get what we are. That's a beautiful quote by Farrah Gray. Um, and so yeah, so now this is my passion and my purpose to help other people, who may be finding themselves in the same situation or want to just up level their lives, their businesses, their relationships, because I've been there. They can literally, I share the same processes I went through, and just support them in having those breakthroughs and create the lives that they really would love to live.
Mhm. Wonderful. And, it's so difficult to admit that we are creating our lives. It's so difficult, especially when things are not going the way we want them to. So, if a person finds them in that position where they're not getting the results they want, they're getting the opposite results, is it possible for them to look at their own stuff and and change that, or do we really need a third party to kind of look in and help us?
Well, the thing is, if we had been able to make the change, we would have already done it, right?
Right.
So I have experienced at every time when I felt stuck in my life, I was really doing my best, the best I was capable of doing at the time. And there were certain blind spots I had that I couldn't see, and so every time, and it's the third time that I got myself coaching support, then yeah, everything changed because first of all, I have support, and I believe we're not meant to live life on our own,
Mhm.
right? And then secondly, I had somebody who helped me to bring to the light of conscious awareness what up until then was hidden in the subconscious, the beliefs, the old patterns, the mask, yeah. And then when we can let go of those things and heal the wounds, and then everybody can do it. I 100% believe it, that there's so much power in each of us. And but yeah, sometimes we have barriers in the way, we have blocks, unresolved emotions, and then live as a consequence to that, have our past unconsciously be the silent forces that sabotage our relationships or cause us to play small or hide out and not go for our dreams.
Yeah. So let's say someone knows that they're not getting the results they want. They would like to have a coach to help them. But how do you find that coach? Because I know I go on social media and gosh, 75% of the people are saying they're coaches. And I think to myself, well, if I do need a coach, and I probably do, I actually have three different coaches I work with in three different areas. But, finding that person that fits, how do you do that when you're looking to change these beliefs?
That's a great question. And first of all, I probably would look for a certified coach, which means they've actually undergone some training and some really rigorous training. Like the training I went through is really rigorous, and there's a lot of yeah, a lot of learning, and we get coaching, and yeah, it's very thorough, and it's actually a proven and tested and repeatable program and technology that has been tested over 40 years. So it's not just a thing that somebody just came up with, and they're teaching, and they may not have done the work on themselves. And that's also, I think, it's so important that you want to find a coach who is embodying what they're talking about. It's not just intellectual knowledge, but they living it, and they're like a living, breathing evidence that this works.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then trusting your intuition, making some sessions. Often coaches offer complimentary sessions, which you can have with me too,
Mhm.
and having sessions, there's no obligation, having conversations, finding out what's it like to be with this person.
Mhm.
What does my intuition say? What's the feeling I get with them? And ultimately, you're the highest authority
Mhm.
on your life. And so trusting yourself, when you really click with somebody, you'll know.
Mhm. That's beautiful. So as I look at the bio that you sent me, you've had quite a journey across the continents. You started in Germany, you were in New Zealand. Talk a little bit about that journey. How did, you started Germany. How did you decide to move into these different phases of life where you're moving into different locations, and why did you move there, and what were your learnings?
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I grew up in Germany, and so by the time I finished high school, I felt really restricted. I kind of grew up in a very controlling, protective environment, and I just wanted to break free. I wanted to get out. I didn't want to study anything, or and I didn't know what the heck I was going to do anyway. So I decided I wanted to travel through Africa, and I had met somebody, and had sort of talked to a few people, and Africa just really called to me, and so I decided. I mean, of course, my family, they wanted me to study, and everybody had different ideas of what would be good for me in my life, but thank goodness they were, respectful and supportive to really allow me to, or support me to do this. And so yeah, I traveled with on three city buses, the really low ones.
Mhm.
And somebody wanted to take the city buses from Germany to Togo, West Africa, and start a bus line there. And so I found this little ad on one of this little local newspapers, and so they were looking for people to pay, like, I think it was 600 German marks for 6 weeks traveling through the Sahara Desert.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I just said yes, I'm gonna do it. And yeah, it was quite a journey. It was yeah, I was in a bus with a chain smoker. He was 70 years old. His wife was the 18-year-old Togolese lady with a 2-year-old little son. And then the other buses were some German guys. And so yeah, it was a real quite an experience, but we made it. We had a few breakdowns, and it was a real adventure. I mean, a lot could have gone wrong, but it didn't. And yeah, it was a really amazing trip. And so we made it. One bus was towing another one, so we ended up driving into Togo, and from then on I was on my own, and I had no real idea. I knew I wanted to Cape Town because I had some contacts there in Zimbabwe. And so yeah, I just decided I was going to take a boat to Zaire and Congo. And yeah, I mean, the things I did, they were really, really dangerous at times. And I was so naive. I was just this little young, yeah, just naive girl. And so anyway, I traveled on a boat. Me on my own on a boat with just guys, and all the way to Congo, but I made it. And then yeah, through Zaire on a 3-day train. Anyway, it was all a lot of hitchhiking. And I mean, again, so much could have gone wrong, but I felt like I had a lot of enemies that were protecting me.
Mhm.
And so then I made it to all the way down to down south through to Cape Town to Africa, and this is where I sort of started to ask myself, what do I want to do with my life? And this is when all of a sudden books came to me about healing, about consciousness, about self-development, and so yeah, so this is where this flame started to be ignited, that I wanted to do something with healing, something to support people in their growth. And so when I left Africa after a year and a half, I went back home, and I was totally culture shock. You know, here I am, I've got bangles all up my arms and have my wraps around, and um, yeah. So then again, the question, what exactly am I going to do? And I had really, again, I knew a little bit, but not, I wasn't sure yet. And so a friend of mine gave me the book, The Magic of Findhorn. And I don't know whether you know, but Findhorn is like a personal development um, center in Scotland. That a lot of magic happens, and a lot of it's for artists and personal development. It's a beautiful, beautiful center. So anyway, I read the book and I went, okay, I'm going to do this. And so I went to Scotland, spent some time there, and this is really where my personal development started. I mean, Africa, I called this my psychotherapy, because all of a sudden I had to make my own decisions. I didn't have anybody telling me what to do. So it was kind of, I started to get to know myself. And then in Findhorn, I started to go deeper, and yeah, that's really set me up on this journey of personal development. And this is then where also I met my first husband. And so then I ended up following him to Sydney in Australia because he was Australian. So this is how I crossed the ocean to the southern hemisphere. And yeah, Sydney is such a beautiful place, and that's where I decided to study natural therapies. And so yeah, I embarked on the study of that, and then fell pregnant. We got our first son, and then my husband wanted to do some study, which there was a course in New Zealand. So we decided to move to New Zealand, and yeah, started to live our lives there. And I basically lived there for 20 years. And then, yeah, probably 10 years or 15 years into living there, it just, yeah, my marriage, yeah, it just felt like the time was right to move on. And yeah, and so that's when my next phase in my personal development happened. And this is really what I learned, is that whatever happens is really is for us. It's for us to grow and to evolve. Because if I hadn't hit rock bottom, I had never really taken responsibility for my finances at that time, or for money, or for, yeah, I was just, life was happening to me. And so I really was forced, I was kind of living on a knife's edge, to force to dig deep and find my own power and my own resourcefulness and my own strength. And so, in that sense, I now see it as my biggest blessing in my life, because I would never have gotten to know myself to the degree I kind of had to be able to create a successful life.
Wow. And then your husband that you're with now, you met him in Arizona?
Yeah, so there's another little piece to the puzzle. So, yeah, so I was separated by then and divorced, and I had created a great life in New Zealand and had no intention of leaving. And so this was 2011, when all of a sudden a massive earthquake hit Christchurch. And I don't know whether you heard about it, but yeah, 187 people died. 11 people I actually worked with for 7 years, they were my colleagues, that died. in a building where I could have been, but I wasn't. And so yeah, after the earthquake, I was kind of shell shocked, and I wasn't sure what was my next step. But then I decided I'm just going to travel and see what's next. And so this is what I then went to LA, met a friend. I had been to Sedona before, and I thought, yeah, healing sounds great. It's a healing mecca, and got connected to some people who were doing healing, and I just thought that's exactly what the doctor ordered. And so yeah, I just left New Zealand and ended up the friend I was staying with in LA. She gave me yeah, the address and the phone number of somebody I could stay with in Phoenix. And so this is how I ended up meeting the love of my life.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he had was kind of done with Phoenix, and wanted a nicer place to live, and he wasn't tied to the city anymore. And so this is when he then, we got a property here in Sedona, and that's where we started our lives together. Yeah.
Wonderful. So your background is in personal development. You did, a massage therapy, which is the physical piece. So you had the physical piece, you had the mental, emotional, spiritual piece. So I know that in the past, when I've had, like, for example, even a massage, especially if it's a deep massage, a lot of times there are emotions and memories and different things actually kind of blocked or stuck inside of our physical body. Talk about that and how that works.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. The issues are in the tissues, and so what happens is when we experience trauma, and as maybe as kids, we don't have the resources to deal with strong emotions. And what we do is, in order to keep going and sometimes even to survive, right? We shut them down. And those emotions and the beliefs we form at the time of adverse situations, they don't go away, right? And they literally get stuck in our bodies, and then become the silent forces that run our lives. And so yeah, exactly, what you're saying is that through massage sometimes those things can get released.
Mhm.
And what I learned was, through the massage therapy, that a lot of people got great results through what I was doing, but there was a handful of people who went through the entire medical system and had the scans, the blood work, they had been to other practitioners, and then somehow ended up with me. And sometimes they got help, sometimes they didn't. And I was thinking, there's got to be a reason. There's got to be something causing this. And so this is while I was asking myself, because yeah, that's when somebody gave me another book, and that was called The Journey by Brandon Mays. And when I read the journey of how Brandon healed herself from a basketball-sized tumor by releasing emotional trauma, and talking about cell memories, that that made so much sense to me. I thought, this is it. This is the missing link. And so as it happened, she was in town the very next weekend. And so I jumped into the training and became a journey practitioner, and then started to integrate this work with my massage therapy. And so yeah, and their results were really amazing. And what I found was that really anybody who has chronic pain invariably had chronic emotional pain that they may have had suppressed. And so I worked with people, some clients that came every week with neck problems or headaches. And then I said, well, look, we could just keep going, just, giving you symptomatic relief. Or we can go deeper and we can see what's really there. What's the root cause of it? And so when they said yes, then I took them on a journey process, and the process takes you into the subconscious and finds the root causes, and in a really gentle way helps you release it and helps you empower yourself. and also connect back to the deeper part inside of you that often gets shut down when we, when we shut down in a traumatic situation. And so as a result, I'm thinking of one lady who had really bad migraines. After even 2 sessions, she had 90% improvement. It was really amazing. It totally changed her life. But not only that, also the releasing the shame, the all the negative feelings, this negative self-worth, and the guilt, and the negative beliefs that they feel that they're bad and people or something. It's just amazing. So yeah, when she came, she had a haircut, she looked different, and like a total transformation. So I really realized how powerful the role is that the repressed emotions and the beliefs play in our health, also in our relationships, in every aspect.
Mhm. So just to clarify or summarize, so you can use physical massage to move some of that cell. Basically, you're moving the cellular memory. You're moving the cellular memory out in a physical way. But then there's other, when you take people on this journey, you're going into their subconscious. So it's not really a mental thing. It's not like they're having to experience everything over again, right? You're just going in and picking up those pieces to see what they are so that they can be aware of them? Or how does that work?
Yeah, great question. So um, with the journey, it's like a guided introspective visualization where you literally go on a journey inside of yourself, and sometimes people end up really in a body part. So we set an intention. What would you love to get out of this? Whatever the intention may be, healing of the body, greater confidence, more clarity in your life, whatever that may be. And then the journey takes you to the block that up until now has been blocking you from experiencing love and abundance and full self expression, or whatever it may be for you. And so it takes you to the memory. And yes, there's a degree of revisiting the memory, but also it helps you kind of move through the layers of the emotions. And as we're doing this, we're ending up back in this, what I call the diamond, the essence of who we really are,
Mhm.
and experiencing peace or relief or joy. And some people, for them, it's like expansiveness. It's like the universe, or so we're connecting to the truth of who we really are. And then in the embrace of this, we're dealing with the younger you, because there is a younger you that
Mhm.
is still holding on to pain. She is still suffering, and she's made decisions. She made decisions that it's not safe to be seen, or that she's unlovable, or that, and then those beliefs still, um, we live according to them, until we get to this point and we can empower the younger you. We can give her resources that she didn't have at the time. We get her to see that the people were not actually intentionally hurting her, but they were just doing the best they could with the resources they had at the time. And I mean, there's lots of pieces to this process, but it usually ends up that the younger you can forgive, she's more empowered and has let go of the grudge, or of the pain, or the blame, or the self blame, or the self loathing, or whatever that may be. And so when people come out of the process, they're feeling so much freer, like a load has fallen off, a burden has fallen off, and just feeling more empowered and freer and lighter, and yeah, more confident. And then this area of their lives often turns around, and even the people associated with them, because all of a sudden we show up differently, so the dynamic changes, and the other people also suddenly change, or they receive a phone call from their parent or something out of the blue. So amazing things happen
Mhm.
through this deep healing process.
Wonderful. And after they're experiencing this wonderful process and these things are happening and changing in their life, how sustainable is it? Is it sustainable, or as soon as something difficult in life hits them, does it all fall apart? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's really is like a like you take an appendix out, like it's a really deep healing of some of one aspect. Does it mean it's going to heal your whole entire life if you do one process? No, it's called the journey for a reason, right? So you want to do several. If you have a chronic issue, you definitely want to do several processes. But also, what I found is that the journey in conjunction with coaching support, dovetailing this is really the most successful and the most empowering and sustainable way, you know. Yeah, because I think when we have one process or two processes, yes, there's significant shifts, but it's, yeah, once you actually dive in and you back this up with a coaching program and you're doing the mindset work and you making things even more conscious and building on this, then this is much more sustainable. And yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. So, I have a friend that I was actually talking to last night, and she has her own business where she works with clients one on one. But she's also been working for a like corporation where she goes and she teaches courses at the college, or she is like an independent contractor for them. And for several years, she's been working on doing her own things and moving out of that, and not, being totally, you know, committed to doing that. But she wanted to move into just her own place. But she says what happens is she's moving towards having just her own business and not working for the corporation. And then there'll be something that pulls her back and she gets stuck back in there and she feels like she's starting over again. And she's again works towards becoming independent in her own business, but something pulls her back. What is happening there and how can she stop that pattern from happening?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, when we have a dream or something that we would really love, like she would love her own business, then this is outside of our comfort zone usually, right? We haven't experienced it. And so this is why it's a dream. And so it kind of coasts us out of the comfort zone. And sometimes and often what happens when we step out of the comfort zone, fear comes up. Our belief systems come up, the belief systems that have kept us where we are at this moment. And often, when we don't have the tools to really navigate this gap between where we're at and where we want to be, the pull of the familiar is very strong. The pull of the old paradigms is very strong. And this is why I believe, and I myself, I wouldn't have been able to do the things I've done by myself. And this is why I believe, firstly, a structure of support is invaluable, and then working with a mentor or with a coach to support you navigating the gap, because you have the power inside of you to do it. But yeah, this is exactly what happens is fear comes up, beliefs come up, and we may not even be aware of it, but we may just say, oh, maybe it's not the right time, or maybe I'll wait a little bit until the time's right, or maybe, we talk ourselves out of it, or we delay it, and then we're back at square one. I've done it many times in my own life, so I know exactly what that feels like.
Yeah, yeah, because as I was talking to her, the feeling what I got was that she knows if she's in this corporate area, it's a sure thing. If she does, her job, she's going to get money. But when she's in her own business, she doesn't know if it's going to work or not. There's just so many unknowns, even though she really wants to have that happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is exactly, we're stepping into the unknown. And yes, there is uncertainty. We don't know, is it going to pan out? But here's the thing that I've found is when we say yes to our dream, yes to our purpose, and we take the bold step, then the universe comes and supports us.
Mhm.
And actually, I just talked to a lady yesterday in my little podcast that I'm doing, and she said that she was in a corporate position in a job that she didn't like it, and then she said yes to being the coach, even though she didn't know how it was going to pan out. But as soon as she said yes, all doors opened, all windows opened, and business started to flow in. And yeah, I think the universe wants us to live our highest life, in alignment with who we really are, where we can give of our talents and our passion, and really make a difference.
Mhm. Yeah, and there's a couple words you said that I just hooked on to: alignment and flow. How do we get in alignment with our authentic selves? How do we know who our authentic self is and getting in alignment with it and get that flow happening so that support is coming towards us?
Yeah, that's another great question. So what I'm finding is, and that's a big part of the Dream Builder program I'm teaching, is to create a vision, to ask ourselves, what would you love? What would you love in your life, for your job, for your relationship? Because that's not a question we ask ourselves very often. And when we allow ourselves to dream and to dream big, as like we wave the magic wand over this area, what would it look like? This is how we get in touch with our authentic self, the self that really wants to show up and wants to be our best self, and the gifts and talents that we have. And then the way we get ourselves in the flow is that daily revisit this vision. We step in it like it's already happening now. I am this person, I am the woman who is having this amazing business and so many clients, making a difference, having X amount of money flowing in. So to make it really specific, so this is really helpful. And then having the tools when the paradigms and the beliefs come up, and they will,
Mhm.
to navigate this, to be able to repattern the patterns, because this is also part of why dreams are so important, because they draw our authentic selves out, but also they bring up everything that's not in alignment with our dream, you
Mhm.
know, everything that's kept us stuck or at that level where we've been operating. And so when those things come up, it's not that we can't have our dream. It just means we haven't done it yet. And it just means it's a good news this is coming up, so we can repattern them. And we've got tools to help you do this. So you can step by step. So yeah, so we all have areas in our lives that we would like to up level, where we feel some discontent or some longing for more. And they are the signals, that show us there's more for us. They're the signals that lead us to our dream. And so we want to listen to them. In the past, I thought, I'm a spiritual person. I just have to be grateful for everything, and I can't allow myself to feel frustrated or discontent. But now there are signals from our souls to tell us there's more potential to be expressed, there's more life to be lived. And so when we then create our vision, our dream, then we are where we're at, and our dream is here. And so there's a gap that we want to close. And so this is, as I said earlier, oh man, it's so beautiful to have support while doing this. Have somebody who can mirror back your blind spots, getting tools, to help you repattern those paradigms and disempowering beliefs that are invariably going to come up. And so the more and more we become the person in the dream and identify with it, become it vibrationally, because that's an energetic blueprint, then the dream finds us. you
Mhm.
know then out of the blue things happen. You get the check sent to you out of the blue, or clients get in touch with you and you don't even know how they found you, or beautiful things happen when we operating on this higher vibration, in alignment with our dream. Does it make sense?
That does make sense. And as you were talking, I was thinking about I personally am in kind of a transition in my life. And what I'm see happening is the things are coming up, and basically it's they're asking me, are you going to tolerate this? All of these things are coming up that are not what I want. So they're popping up and saying, are you going to tolerate this? And it's like, no, not going to tolerate that one. And little by little, I'm clearing out the things that I'm unwilling to tolerate, and
That's
keeping
yeah.
the things that I want.
Yeah, that's very powerful, because often we settle. We settle for the status quo and we think, well, this is what life's like, or we say, well, my life is good. But good is the enemy of great. You could have a great life. And I love it. I love that you're saying, the universe is testing you. Are you going to tolerate this? Are you going to tolerate those people in your life, or a job that you hate, or a really low income, or your health not being really fully vital? Are you going to tolerate those things? And then if we really make a stand for ourselves and say no, then we have opportunities to create what we would really love.
Mhm. Yeah. So now let's talk about connection. So, connection to ourselves, connection to others, connection basically to the world around us so we can feel like we're actually part of it. Why is connection so important? And what are the benefits of actually having that connection?
hmm Okay, so connection, yeah, I think is super important, and here's why I believe the reason. So, when I grew up, in hindsight, I see it now. Had really only incarnated in here. I was living in my head. I was totally disconnected from my feelings, from my body, because in the past, women's bodies weren't rated very highly, women weren't rated. So I had cut myself off. I was living in here. I was just caught in my thoughts, and I wasn't really connected with myself. And so as I then went through the journey training, and it's all experiential, so I was doing it, I started to connect with my emotions, and really, yeah, because I was in this gray zone of a little bit of contentment, a little bit of frustration, and there was no like real bliss or joy or passion, and also there was no like anger or rage. So it was just this gray zone, and so this really helped me connect deeper with my emotions, and know that emotions are okay. All emotions are okay. They're just signals of something that's happening. For example, if you feel angry, maybe there's a boundary that's been crossed, or so to learn to accept and be with emotions and have tools, and just accepting them as part of our human experience. And then through the massage training, I got connected with my body, because again, initially I found it really uncomfortable to even touch a body. It sounds weird, but anyway, through that I connected with my body and started to, because often as women we don't feel comfortable, we are judgmental, we are hating this part and that part, and so I learned to be more comfortable in my body, and to actually start to inhabit it, and feel it, and start to like it. And so yeah, so the emotional connection with my body, and then this allowed me to much more open up to the spiritual connection. I had been meditating up until then, but really it was shallow. I was kind of more in my mind. As soon as I deepened in my connection with myself, my authentic self, with my body, my emotions, I also opened up more spiritually, and was able to, yeah, to feel the stillness, and feel the connection with actually with other people. If I'm not connected with myself, I can't connect with somebody else really well. If
Mhm.
I don't love myself, how can I really love and be present for somebody else?
Mhm.
So this is how connection helped me to just move up the spiral of a much richer and more fulfilling life. And yeah.
Mhm. So when you're talking about all that and feeling the bliss and feeling in your body, I know there are many people when you talk about, okay, let's connect with your feelings, they're like, no way. When I'm in my head, I can control it. When I go into my feelings, I get hurt. It hurts. It's painful. It's uncomfortable, and I can't control it. So, what would you say to a person that's at that place?
That's a great question. Well, the thing is, nobody and nothing can make us feel anything. It can only trigger what's already there. And if somebody says something and we feel hurt, it's not about the other person. They triggered something unhealed inside of us. So there is an opportunity for us to do some healing.
Mm.
And the more we do this, it's like, we are this beautiful diamond. There's this potential, there's wholeness, there's love, peace, abundance. It's all there. This is who we are. But then as we're going through our childhood and young adults, and we're experiencing hurt and trauma, we just accumulating those layers of hurt, of fear, of anger, of resentment, of lack of self-worth, and then we put the mask over the top, right, and we present it to the world like I've got it all together. And so when we get triggered, it's only because there's something unhealed, and it's an opportunity to peel off some of those layers. And actually the journey is fantastic in that. And as we're doing it, we get more connected again with the deeper part inside of us, the wholeness that's already there. And as we're doing this and we learn to respond rather than react. Like in the past, I was a trigger machine, like I was bouncing off the environment when somebody did something or didn't do something or something happened. I was going through all those emotions and didn't know what to do with them, like what you just said. But now I'm, yeah, when we don't carry all this baggage, emotional baggage, then we're not as reactive, and we can see, actually step into the shoes of the other person and see, man, somebody who says something like this must be in a lot of pain. And then we can actually feel compassion for them, you know so yeah, I highly, highly recommend to anybody to do some healing work. And um, yeah, because without emotions, we want to experience emotions,
Mhm.
because we can't cut ourselves off the uncomfortable ones, because then we also cut ourselves off the beautiful emotions. We can't say no to once and yes to the other, so. But it's just saying yes to life. It's saying yes to being human, and yes to being willing to be in process of growing, being uncomfortable, making mistakes, and embracing all of it.
Wonderful. So, I want to change gears a little bit and ask something personal. So,
Okay.
what gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, one of the things is, well, my relationship with my husband. It's just, we're like so connected, and there's so much love, like literally every day. And so, yeah, so this is super, super fulfilling. That's what's one of my dreams, where I sort of put that out there and said, yeah, I actually said to God, well, look, I want to experience to be loved and adored, and to love and adore somebody else. And it's non-negotiable. This is what I want to experience. And so I really, really, yeah, I'm so grateful for that. Also, to see my clients grow and overcome their limitations, their perceived limitations, and to step more to their power and start to build their dreams. And yeah, and the other thing is, through the process of my empowerment and healing, all my relationships have changed, with my parents, with my children. And, it's so much more real and authentic. And oh my gosh, yeah, I'm so super, super grateful for that. And then going out hiking I'm in Sedona, Red Rock country. It's so, so, so beautiful here, and being in nature, and yeah, and just being present in meditation, and yeah, so many things that I really, really enjoy.
Right. Thank you. So, if people wanted to work with you or contact you or in some way, why don't you at this point tell us, if you have a website or how they can connect with you, what programs or services you offer?
Okay, great. So, yeah, I offer, and they're free online master classes. It's about the power of vision. How you can really create the life that you absolutely love living. And so there's one coming up. I had it written down somewhere on the 23rd of April. So that's free. I'm on Instagram, and all the notes will be probably in the notes, right? So under my name, you find me on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. My website is www.karolineStevens.com, and there's some information you find. And also, I have created an interview series. It's called Dreamers and Doers. It's interviews with inspiring dream builders, entrepreneurs, and difference makers. And they're wonderful interviews with a variety of women. And you will find so much inspiration in there. And this is what the idea was, a bit like what you're doing, to help inspire you and help you to also go for your dreams. And of course, my email will be in the notes. And also, if you want to have a conversation with me, I offer complimentary clarity sessions, and they're one-on-one sessions where we do a little deep dive, where we find out where you're at right now, where you'd love to be, and how you could best bridge this gap. So I'm happy to, if you want to reach out, we can schedule that for you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And thanks so much for being on the podcast today. And this has been an amazing conversation. We went deep in a lot of areas, and I hope that it really inspires people to, you know, be their authentic selves and find that happiness that they're looking for. So, but thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. That was really a great conversation. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So I have one last question before we complete. What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Okay, so my best advice is just to go for what you want, what your soul, what is calling you to do, because one of the biggest regrets of the dying, there's been research on this, that people say on their deathbed, I wish I had done the things that I wanted to do. And so I highly, highly recommend getting in touch with what you really want to do, and making a stand for it, living life uncompromisingly as yourself, and getting yourself support. The greatest sports people, athletes, coaches, they all have a support team. And Kimberly, she has 3 coaches. And so it's just wonderful to have that support. And yeah, that's sort of my 2 biggest tips.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Carolina. And we will talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. All the best. And what a wonderful work that you're doing. I'm so inspired by you, Kimberly.
Thank you.